would like to first of all start off by thanking you all for being here. On behalf of the Louisville Chamber of Commerce, we welcome you to today's address. I think it's going to be a lot of fun with our Honorable Mayor, Dennis Maloney. So he'll be presenting soon. My name is Eric Lund. I'm the Executive Director of the Louisville Chamber of Commerce, and it's a pleasure to be here tonight. We'd first of all like to thank our sponsors who helped to make tonight possible. Premier Credit Union. Premier Credit Union is terrific, and they are the title sponsor for tonight's event. Also, I'd like to welcome Commuting Solutions, who's our other sponsor. Where's Commuting Solutions? There she is. So thank you very much, and again, great partners. We love working with you guys, and thank you very much for sponsoring tonight's event. Also, there's information regarding the Chamber of Commerce. If you guys don't know about the Chamber and you want to know a little bit more about it, we've got a table right back here, and there's all kinds of great information on there. Feel free to pick some of that up and enjoy it. Also, I would like to thank my wife, Georgia, for helping to put together the great food display in the back there tonight. So when we're done tonight, please feel free to eat more, because Georgia will feel bad if she sees a lot of leftover food. So we don't want to do that. The Louisville Chamber plays a key role in supporting the community and our businesses in the region. We're a member organization, and we have over 360 business members. That's a lot. So that represents thousands of employees. And we're proud to serve our community and ensure that Louisville remains the best place in the United States to live, work, and play. As a chamber, we are dedicated to being the voice of business and for our area, and we regularly engage in advocacy efforts on behalf of the community and businesses in front of local, state, and federal representatives, government entities. It is critical to have a response to the many regulatory and judicial issues that come up and that our community faces, and we regularly are active in that effort. We also produce and support many annual special events, which you can hear a little bit about soon. We provide marketing and promotional opportunities for our business community, and we create marketing programs that support our local business. We invite you to join the Chamber if you have a business or if you would like to become a volunteer for any of our fun events. And we've got a lot of them, so we always welcome great volunteers. We also have a terrific ambassador team. I think a few of the ambassadors, wave your hand if you're here tonight. I know there's a few here. There's one. There's two at least there. So our ambassadors are great greeters, and they go out and welcome our brand new business members and also help us with a lot of events, ribbon cutting events and ceremonies and things like that. So thank you for being here tonight. The Chamber offers many opportunities to grow and prosper, and again, we thank you all for joining us this evening. It's now my pleasure to introduce you to this year's president of the Louisville Chamber of Commerce with First Interstate Bank, and that is Victoria Bergeon Fogarty. There you go. Can you say it right? Better.
All right, thank you, Eric. So last year we launched our Chamber Reimagined, and we've been working very hard on our strategic program that connects, advocates, and promotes our member businesses. So we connect by meeting our 360 plus business members personally and online. We host ribbon cuttings for new businesses and numerous networking events throughout the year. And once a year we partner with other local chambers for a barbecue that provides additional opportunities to network to a larger group of chamber businesses. And as Eric mentioned, our ambassador team is a great way to know each other and have some fun while networking too. We advocate for our chamber members and local community through personal interactions and special events with local government and officials. This year we hosted our first ever candidate forum, and we partnered with the Boulder League of Women Voters and the Downtown Business Association, and we had all the candidates for mayor and city council present, and there were over 150 people in attendance. So that was our first one, and just like tonight is our first state of the city, so that's pretty cool too. And we also have at least one representative attending most of our legislative meetings. And then we also promote by generating marketing and promotional programs that support our local businesses to communicate to the marketplace and other businesses and to our members. We publish a members directory annually, and we offer business spotlights in our newsletters and websites. So it's been my honor to serve as the Louisville Chamber of Commerce president and to provide direction for our chamber. And now it's my pleasure to introduce to you our new incoming president, Iona Carney, owner of Speedy Sparkle Car Wash. Iona.
Very dramatic, yes. Thank you so much, Victoria. I get to talk about the fun events that we put on. We at the Chamber have accomplished many terrific things this year, including revitalizing some community events like the Taste of Louisville, which is now a month-long celebration in Louisville that included Dinner on Main, which was a sold-out community dinner that brought community members and restaurants together all the way down Main Street. It was a wonderful event. Pints in the Park is undergoing a major transformation with the addition of bands, a new pricing strategy with more taps to taste, and food trucks to enjoy. We initiated some new programs like the Health and Home Expo and the Candidate Forum like Victoria talked about, and this new State of the City. We've also kept favorites like the Summer Golf Tournament and the Parade of Lights, which will, of course, be December 1st this year, the first Friday in December. At our annual awards dinner on January 31st, we will proudly honor the best of Louisville's community members and businesses, and we really just look forward to seeing everyone at our upcoming events this year. Now, the reason we're all here, please allow me to introduce our Honorable Mayor Maloney, a 20-year resident of Louisville and a retired CU Boulder Technology Director. Mayor Maloney has served on the Louisville City Council since 2015, including 3 years as Mayor Pro Tem and the most recent year as our mayor. Mayor Maloney previously served on the Council's Finance Committee and Golf Course Advisory Board, and represented the city on the Downtown Business Association Street Fair Committee and Impact Fee Task Force. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the Honor Mayor Maloney for his 2023 State of the City
I obviously did not pick that music. I think it's interesting. Somebody noticed that I had the same shirt on in the picture. I was up here earlier. I had to check it, actually. Well, I want to thank the Chamber for this. I think that the Chamber is really all about business, and business is city business. And so the city, and there's staff here, and there's, I think, 4 city councilors, and the mayor-elect is here as well. So, but I also want to thank the citizens of Louisville for their support over the last 8 years. Representing Ward 3 and then being Mayor Pro Tem and the mayor for this last year has been an honor, and it's something that's been humbling to me. So I'm thrilled to be here and talk to you about things. I do have a very relatively short presentation I'm going to go through because I would like to see this be a dialogue. It says State of the City, and I'm not an orator, so I'm not going to be up here for half an hour just talking to you. I'm going to point out some things that I think were important for you to know. But if you have questions at the end, I'd love to get into a dialogue about things. One of the things I also want to do is take the opportunity to thank staff. Our deputy city manager is here somewhere, hiding right there. Santa Fox is here. This is a wonderful city. And it's interesting because I get the question, we used to be the best city in America, best small city in America. So I went back to 2011 and looked at the criteria, and then looked at our criteria today. The only difference for Louisville between 2011 and today, and the reason why we're no longer noted for that, is the price of housing, which has gone up 150% over the average for the country. If we were average, we would easily be the #1 city in the United States. So I still think that's true. I think it's the best place to live, and I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. So, as the citizens of Louisville, it was my honor to be able to serve the city. So I'm going to skip that. I have a looking back and a of looking forward. So first I'm going to talk about some things for 2013. And I know there are people that are in the room tonight who have lost their homes. You know, it's a devastation to them. It's a devastation to the community. And I know that Councilor Fahey and Mayor-elect Lay will remember my words at the first meeting after the fire, that our work plan as a city council is recovering from the fire. And you know, I think that's something that we've lived and something that we owned, but we're still doing it. And one of the things I'm going to note is the progress. Today we're at roughly 60% of the homes are either finished or in the process of being rebuilt. That's huge success. I believe over the next year that those numbers will get up to 70 to 75%. And that is astounding. For other communities, whether they've been in California or in Colorado or in other parts of the country, have had this kind of devastation, to recover this quickly is amazing. And part of the theme from City Council was we wanted people back into our community, and we needed to do things to encourage that. Staff in the planning department did a terrific job of re-engineering processes to try to make that happen. So, where we're on to now really is talking about resilience as a community. Everybody loved the cows and the goats out, you know, eating weeds, and that's all well and good, but we're also doing mowing. And what I wanted to point out here is the City Council just got a report on resilience, and we asked staff to come up with an action plan for 2024. But before that ever happened, we already started doing things. We knew that this was important to all of the community. We need to protect the community and whatever it takes to do that. Now I'm going to talk about a few things that Council has done over the last year that I think are major changes, just like the Chamber has made major changes in things. The first is what is called concept planning. It's what I call sketch plan. That gives developers and builders an opportunity to come to the Planning Commission or City Council and talk about ideas, get into a dialogue about what possibilities might be. Before, the steps we had, really you had to go through all the formal steps and potentially spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a proposal that was never going to be approved by City Council or Planning Commission. What we want to do as the city is really work with the developers and work with the builders and so forth for the type of product that we need. Whether it's housing or retail or whatever that might be, we need to change that paradigm. And so that was one of the things we did, I think, is really important. This is a fun slide. We could do a bunch of these slides. The city of Louisville, you know, Bee City, we're the tree city and so forth. There's a lot of accolades for the city of Louisville. The city of Louisville does a lot of great things. And it's really because of the citizens. The citizens are the ones who encourage and want, and the staff hears those things. So when we do, next year there'll be, in 2024, there'll be a citizen survey, which will say, what do we value as a community? And what is important? Sustainability, for example, is one of those things that this city values very much. But I just thought this was a fun slide because I could have had about 10 of these slides for all the things that the city does. So moving on to 2024, my colleagues who are here and the deputy city manager will all say that I always lead with numbers. So I'm going to talk about 2024 leading with numbers. And the very first thing is really the sources of funds or the revenues that we have as a city. The city of Louisville is heavily dependent upon sales tax, which is true for almost all municipalities in the state of Colorado. The interesting thing about this, since I've been on council for the last 8 years, is that the sales taxes have grown higher than predicted rates, with the exception of the COVID year, where we had a lot of closures in town and so forth. But there's been a real significant shift. As you all know, over the last 10 years, we've lost Kohl's and Sam's and Lowe's, Kmart, if you're old enough, you've been around long enough, alfalfa, things like some of the big box stores have left because this is no longer a market for big box stores. Those have gone to the high traffic areas like 287 and I-25. So the question that I know you all want to ask is, well, how is sales tax still going up? It's what we call outside city sales. What you might think of as internet sales. So Amazon, Wayfair, and everything else. I'm a fly fisherman, I tie flies, and I buy feathers and stuff from all over the country, and now I'm paying sales tax on all of those things. But that is the fastest growing and the largest source of sales taxes in the city. And so from an economic sustainability, economic vitality perspective, the challenge that council and staff has is that sustainable? Especially when you look at, that's such a large part of our revenue. The other thing that I'm sure that you all are wondering is now that HH has failed, what happens to property taxes in the city of Louisville? The direction that city council gave during the budget discussions was that it shouldn't go up more than 4 to 5% next year. So that's what will happen in Louisville. Who knows what will happen in the future as far as any citizens initiatives or anything around sales tax. I do know that there has been a citizens initiative that would be on the 2024 ballot to limit sales tax to 4%. And there's another one that's gaining ground, getting signatures at 3%. Who knows what will happen with all of those things? But something like that will probably happen. I know the concern is, well, me in particular, my property value from 2022 went up by 40%. So people initially go, does that mean my property tax is going to go up by 40%? Not from the city of Louisville, not from the county, because the county, by state statute, can only raise their property taxes by 5.5% a year. The big question is what will happen with the schools district, fire district, and so forth. It's not a next slide, but one thing I was also going to talk about, because I've gotten this question, a lot of people go, why are my property taxes so high and so forth? The property tax you pay, only 10% of that actually goes to the city of Louisville. The majority goes to the school district, the county, and the fire district. So that was the revenue side, and this is really probably hard to read, isn't it?
There you go.
That wasn't hard at all. So the other part of numbers is the way I like to explain things is what is money spent on? And it's really the most important things I think the city should be providing. The majority is spent on water. Water, sewer, wastewater, all of those kind of things. The next is transportation, which is our roads and snow plowing, our bike paths, crosswalks. Our police is another big part of it. And then all of these things are cultural services, recreation, open space, and parks. So we spend a quarter of our money every year on really what some people would be considered amenities. And our amenities are over the top. I know that the Parks and Recreation Department did a study, and we have roughly 2.5 times the number of parks per capita than a typical city our size. Now, let's talk about open space. Around the city, we have over 2,000 acres of open space, and I can't remember the number, but the miles of trails is 32 or something like that, miles of trails between the parks and so forth. So the amenities we have are incredible, really. I'm just going to hold this, it'll be easier. So things going forward, you being here, warms my heart because this is you being involved in what's going on in the city. And the biggest thing that happens every 10 years is redoing the comprehensive plan. And the comprehensive plan really is the map of the way the city intends to move forward. And it really affects the services we provide, it affects housing, it affects economic sustainability. But let me give you a graphic on this. And I know that's impossible to see, but you can see the colors. This is the Colorado Tech Center. I live over here somewhere in the housing area, but as we look at this is really about mapping out what the city should look like 10 and 20 years from now. Do we want it to look exactly the same as this? Do we want there to be more housing, less housing, whatever those things? That's a community engagement process where you'll be invited to come and work with the planning departments and our consultants and the staff to really tell us, to really guide that process. So please take the opportunity when it comes up. It's going to start in earnest, I think, in the winter time. Is that correct? And it will probably take a year to a year and a half. And there'll be numerous opportunities on various topics for you to participate. And one of the really important pieces of that is housing. It's one of the challenges that we have. Excuse me. One of the challenges we have, I know that my house, which I bought 20 years ago, is worth 3 times what I paid for it 20 years ago. It's amazing, but it is what's going on in this area of Colorado. It's what I call the city of Boulder effect. People moving in my neighborhood, because I live in a patio home, are mostly people my age and older who want to move into a patio home, and they're coming out of $2 and $3 million houses. So they start bidding up. They're still doing it today because they've got cash in their hand. They're not worried about the 7% interest rates. But what does that do for the workforce who needs to be in this town? What does that do for the people who need subsidized housing? These are questions that we ask through this process. It's another point of engagement for the public to really talk about what is important, what do we value, and what choices are we willing to make around priorities in order to be able to address some of these issues. Another topic that's going to come up is minimum wage. I don't know how many of you know, but Boulder County just recently approved minimum wage plans very similar to what they're doing in the city of Denver. But they're starting to look at what is a living wage. The state of Colorado has I don't know what it is, 1365, is that right? Close. Something like that. The federal minimum wage is 7 something. So the state of Colorado has done something. Is that enough for us in Louisville? Is it enough for us in Boulder County? That we have to answer that question. And we're doing it as part of a consortium of cities, which includes Boulder, Lafayette, Superior, Erie, and the surrounding communities. Because we don't want to do something as an island that has a negative effect on us or other communities. So if anything happens, it'll be done as a consortium. But this will be a public discussion. And it's another opportunity. And that will be coming up next year. And you'll like this one, Eric. Economic vitality. This is one of those things that I feel with COVID and the Marshall Fire and our city manager who was involved in a motorcycle accident, it really kind of slowed us down on what things that we could do. But we do know we need to do retail revitalization. We need to do recruitment of retail. We need to look at our various corridors of retail and commercial and so forth and say, do they fit the needs today? Are they attractive today? We do have a business assistance program. We need to be looking at that and how that helps us as well. But economic sustainability is key to being able to maintain the level of services and amenities that we have today. You're going to say this one's a repeat of the picture with the cows, and it is. What we did in 2023 was staff did a lot of really great things and started working on wildfire mitigation. What council, the direction we gave them this fall was we would like to see an action plan for 2024. So I expect that will come first or second quarter or something like that. One of the things I want to thank the citizens for supporting was 2C, which was a continuation of the parks and open space tax with an additional amount for open space. And that's going to help a great deal with this wildfire mitigation because that was one of the tenets of putting it on the ballot. So thank you very much. I almost got a 70% vote. So that's the boring part of my presentation. I'm sure you have some tough questions for me. Eric?
No question.
Eric, you got a question.
We got it.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I have a question about the expenses, the city expenses, and that pie that you had up there. So I'm a new business owner downtown, and I'm kind of surprised, and I'm sure there's an explanation, but why the economic vitality slice is so small.
That's a good question. So the simplest answer is this is the way the accounting system was set up to keep track of expenses for economic vitality. And it only includes the couple of staff that work there. So as far as things like the business assistance package and some of the other things, those actually come out of other pools. And that's actually not considered to be an expense, but really a contra revenue, so it's a reduction of revenues. But yeah, that far exceeds the staff costs. So, sure.
I know you got a good question. So this question is about the housing needs assessment and about the comp plan. I'm curious to know how they're going to interrelate, how they're going to interact. The needs assessment talks about need for housing and projects some numbers, but the comp plan doesn't necessarily accommodate that. Can you talk about how that connection is going to be made?
I'm going to try.
Okay.
You know, the housing study will precede really in depth of doing anything in the comp plan because it is meant to inform the comp plan. And I was making a joke, but I seriously can't answer your question on how it's going to technically do that. I don't know if the deputy city manager has an answer to that or not, but you do.
So the housing study and other studies like that will be reviewed as part of that comprehensive plan process and get incorporated into that work. So we're all informed of the comprehensive plan.
Did we get close to answering your question?
Well, and I wasn't so much interested in the technicality of it as just this. I mean, there's a principle here of, you know, how much is the comp plan going to in principle reflect what the needs assessment is showing as a requirement for more housing. And I'm not sure that the comp plan does that now. And so what kind of adjustments might be made to accommodate whatever 2,000 more units?
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point. It doesn't now. And I don't, you know, I put the zoning map up there because that's all really kind of what happened in the past is, you know, we kind of said, this is urban, this is suburban, this is rural. I mean, that was sort of the definitions, and it was more at that level. We can't work at that level given the challenges of housing. So as Deputy City Manager Fox said, this is an input. What I can't answer is what happens with that.
Yeah.
You know, because I might accept it, you might accept it, and Mayor-elect may not accept it. So where does it go when you start influencing the comp plan? It's got to influence comp plan, in my opinion. We definitely have housing challenges, and we don't have a lot of zone land for housing. So what do we do about that? So I think that has to be answered. So great question. I wish I had a better answer for it. Deborah?
And I want to follow on with that because I spent part of the afternoon looking at the housing needs assessment for the second time. And there's some very specific specific policies and strategies that are identified through the housing needs assessment. And those will carry forward to the comp plan, but only if the community, staff, city council says, these are good policies that would change the way Louisville looks today. Dramatically, a little bit, where housing goes, things like that. So my pitch is back to the audience to say, we need to engage in the comp plan in order for us to get the right policies.
And Deborah Vasquez on the Planning Commission. So. Yes, sir.
Well, related question to this. So does the city have a goal of what they want the population to grow to eventually? And I know that land is limited. And then related to this, like, I remember being at a breakfast event, chamber event a few years ago, and I was sitting next to Louisville's planning or economic development director at the time, and I just read in the newspaper that Erie was $100 million in debt. And I got to talking to him, and he said, what? And I asked him why. He said, well, they figure they're going to sell 30,000 water taps at $35,000 each and grow 35,000 households. Well, what if that doesn't happen? And then Erie is $100 million in debt that they can't pay. So is Louisville doing anything like that, wanting to grow as much as Erie? Hopefully not.
That's an easy no. I don't think that, I'm mayor until November 28th. Between now and November 28th, there is no intention to mortgage the future. Now, my humble opinion is what they did was crazy. If you look at, one of the things that council looked at, I don't know, maybe this summer was water rates. The water rates, and this is not the tap fee, this is the water bill in Superior is more than 2 times the rate it is in Louisville. And part of it is because of all the infrastructure they mortgaged, and now they have to spread across. So there's no intention to do anything of that scale. That's what you're asking. But the question remains though is, we do have some undeveloped commercial, not very much undeveloped residential. When that has to be served, depending on what it is, there may need to be an increase in infrastructure, but rather than building it with a future of selling it, we will build it to meet the need. So it's a different philosophy. But you're right though, Erie built with the intention of double or tripling their population. We don't have anywhere to do that. Yes?
I'm wondering about ADUs.
And what is the question?
Can a private homeowner have an ADU on their property?
So the current city ordinances do not allow for that, but that is on the work plan for 2024 to be addressed.
Yeah, I moved here from California, and it's actually an incentive there because they have too many people. But I was curious.
Yeah, I think it'll be seriously considered for 2024. But you'll have to ask the mayor-elect that question. Not to put him on the spot.
Right.
If you go to my website, I actually address that. But I'm one person on council.
Other questions, comments?
I have a question. On the revenue side, you had use tax and sales tax combined as the largest source. How can you divide between the two of those?
How would you divide between 2 of those?
Yeah, I mean, you have it in one chunk, but it's 2 different things.
Well, it's similar. I mean, use tax is another term for sales tax. An example is when you come, if you want to, if I do remodel on my house and I come in with a building permit, there is a calculation of how much of that is building materials, and you pay the sales tax % on that. And we call it use tax at that point in time, but it's essentially they're pretty much interchangeable. I think the question you're asking me is, what's the split between use tax and sales tax? So if you're just looking at, there's a lot of categories. That's why so for example, there's an auto use tax. So if you go over to Superior and buy a Tesla, at their Tesla store, you'll pay use tax which is the sales tax on the purchase, so that the sales tax doesn't stay in Superior. And that's really what use tax is all about, is we as a city back, and actually there's been a number of elections. I think the most recent was 2010. I don't know if that sounds right, Councilor Lay, but the city of Louisville, their citizens voted to put a use tax in place so that if you go to, say, Wheat Ridge and buy building materials for your house, and you show on your permit that you are from Louisville where you pay use tax, they don't charge you sales tax there. The sales tax is actually called use tax and comes to the city of Louisville. But the split, I believe, is somewhere between a third use tax and 2/3 sales tax. And maybe the deputy city manager knows that better than me, but. Yes, sir.
Just to put some meat on the bone, looking at 2024 forecast, what is the actual budget for, what's the number?
So for this year, all these,
What's the?
I don't do this, all those add up to about $90 million. I will say that the, I was actually referring to this chart. It's $90 million in expenses, and the reason why, and I'll talk about the revenue in a second, it's different, is that the capital projects that we have going on sometimes go from year to year, and the way the accounting works for government accounting is the whole thing carries forward. But the revenue side is about $60 million a year. Yes, sir.
Could you provide an update on the, I believe it's Red Tail Ridge project, former storage tech property south of town? How does that fit into some of the future plans, budget?
So I'll answer the last part of that first. There's nothing in this budget that has anything to do with Red Tail. And the awkward thing about your question is that is some Red Tail, if that comes back before council, will be a quasi-judicial matter, which means city council acts as a judge, looking at the application and looking at the city codes and the ordinances and so forth. So we're not allowed to talk about that outside of city council meetings. I will tell you, though, it is on the published schedule for 2024 to come back to council. That's all the detail I have.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Related question on that. Now, I forget, who was the main company that was behind that? They've already built another huge building in Lafayette that's already open, right?
So you're talking about Medtronic.
Yeah.
There's a medical device company that was in Louisville for many years.
Yeah.
They chose to consolidate. They had 3 buildings, one in Boulder, one in Brookville, one here. So when the Red Tail went through the citizen vote, and so it was paused, they had already given up leases, sold buildings, so they built the building off of 287, and it's up and running.
But how does that affect the plan? Are they still wanting to build this project or something?
No, they decided to build in Lafayette.
So
I
they're
don't-
totally out of the picture, but somebody else still wants to develop there? That's-
You know, I can only assume that's true. I don't think a developer is going to come ahead unless they have tenants, unless they can, the financials work. We don't have that information at this point in time. It's a good question. I just don't have that information. I told you couldn't ask any questions.
And I said I would ask one. And so, from an economic vitality position, what is the city doing at this point to promote some of these gaps? Some of the places over on the Caslin area, Alfalfa's, the larger box stores, and also, people who come downtown, Old Town, they see the homes. So I know we've had an economic vitality manager, and she has now, that person has left. So what is kind of the next steps for the city in terms of promoting that retail, promoting those, service industry spaces, the building? What is the city doing to do that?
I would say not enough. Our economic vitality manager left summertime. I don't remember exactly the timing, something like that. So we're in the process of recruiting. It's a hard position to recruit for. But you saw my slide up there. One of the things that we've asked the city manager is to do more focus on this. I don't have a prescriptive answer to your question, but economic sustainability is important to the health of the city. And so, I believe, certainly you talked about McCaslin, you talked about downtown, we have some vacancies downtown. We have some awkward spaces downtown with vacancies, but we have a couple that are on corners too. And so, it's a great question. I wish I was around for more of that, but I do know it's on the 2024 work plan, and it's something that is on the city manager's list of things that will be coming from the city council. So there's no question it needs a lot of attention. Huh?
Mayor-elect.
You're not supposed to, the mayor-elect can ask questions.
I'm not going to ask. To the point, there was a question a little bit ago about why that sliver there is so narrow. And I got that during the campaign. And my answer really was, it kind of what the mayor had mentioned, but maybe more specifically, there are a variety of places where the city is involved in economic vitality issues, or where economic vitality is affected by those areas. Planning itself is a huge, sometimes even determinant of parts of economic vitality, how the processes work, what the standards are what the mayor just mentioned about the focus of the city manager. The city manager gets paid a fair amount of money, and this is a focus area of his. And so that's not counted in this. There are these kinds of things within the city that I think all are part of the bigger picture of what economic vitality work is in the city. Some would say that a very small, narrow piece of that would be a really good thing. The less we get involved in economic vitality issues, the better. Well, business people kind of feel that way in some way. But I take the point that there are things that we can do, and you'll see that. It's just one person's ideas, but I have a whole page on the website about how some of the things that I would foresee as really good ways that the council and the city can help sometimes get out of the way and let things work, let business people do what they're going to do, and others to kind of set the table in a way that helps them do their jobs better, easier, faster, with more predictability, and that allows business people to mitigate their risks. Because business people take chances, they take risks all the time. That's what they do. But when they have things that move around and things that are supposedly constant or close to constant, that's where it gets really hard if the rules keep changing. And so, there's ideas in there that we can look at. But I think there's a lot of ferment right now in a whole variety of places in city government. The staff in these various departments, the Louisville Revitalization Commission, another one. The Planning Commission has a role in that. City council has a role in that, you all have a role in that. This comp plan that the mayor was talking about is a huge, huge part of that. That will set a tone, and there will be a lot of people looking at what we do there as, you know, what we want to be. So the more people who are involved in that, I think the better. There were, I think part of the challenge before in the comp plan was we had very few people, relatively speaking, involved in the last comp plan, including a kind of dearth of businesses, not nearly so many businesses. So these things I don't think are going to be the same as they were 10 years ago. I think the comp plan is going to be a better documented process. It's one of the reasons why I ran for mayor, because this is a huge, huge, important statement. So, thank you. That was not a question.
Well, I can't respond.
You can respond right now in about how many days? You don't
Thank you very much to the Chamber for sponsoring this, and next year you'll have Mayor Lay here doing the presentation and answering the tough questions. Thank you very much.